Last night, the sky over Ukraine, well, it didn't just rain, it burned. A wave of fire and steel came down across 7 different regions in a coordinated, absolutely relentless attempt to just plunge an entire nation into darkness and cold. This was a message, and it was written in explosions.
123. Let that number sink in for a second. That's how many attack drones Russia launched in a single night. We're talking a massive storm of Garand 3 and Shahed variants, all aimed at one thing: overwhelming Ukraine's defenses through sheer, brutal numbers. This was one of the largest strikes of its kind since the war even began.
But even as the world was watching this massive assault unfold, something else was happening. A quiet revolution was taking place. A new player has just entered this deadly game, and it's a response that was born not from desperation, but from some seriously lethal innovation. So today, we're going to break down this massive attack, look at its tragic cost, and dive into the brand new technology that might just flip the entire script of this war.
Stay till the end, because the shocking technology I am going to reveal is a genuine game changer. Let's get back to the video. Now, I know what you're thinking. We're getting a little ahead of ourselves. And you're not wrong. But to really, truly understand the scalpel, we first have to understand the sledgehammer that it was designed to counter.
So what was the real thinking behind this massive drone attack? I mean, this wasn't just some random bombardment. No, this was a calculated military strategy executed on a massive scale with a cold, hard economic logic right at its core.
The core concept here is something called a saturation attack. The goal isn't necessarily for every single drone to hit its target, not at all. The real objective is to overwhelm the system. It's to throw so many threats up in the air all at once that you force the defender to burn through a massive amount of their valuable, very expensive resources just to shoot down a swarm of cheap attackers.
And this right here, this illustrates the absolutely brutal math of this war. I mean, look at this. On the left, you've got a Russian drone that costs about $20,000. On the right, a sophisticated Western interceptor missile that can cost $100,000, and honestly, sometimes a whole lot more. So from a purely economic perspective, every single drone Ukraine shoots down is still, in a way, a strategic win for the Kremlin's war of attrition. It's a strategy designed to bleed the defenders dry, one missile at a time.
But Ukraine's defenses, man, they held the line. Their evolving AI mesh air defense system managed an astonishing 89% success rate, taking down 110 of the drones. Now, this AI mesh isn't one single piece of tech, it's a whole network that uses artificial intelligence to link together all sorts of sensors and weapons into one single coordinated system. It's really a testament to their adaptation. But in a war of numbers, it's the 11% that get through. Those are the ones that carry the highest cost. And we absolutely have to talk about that cost. Because behind all these percentages and the technical jargon, there are real people, real families, and real lives being torn apart. So now we're going to move from the strategic overview to the ground to see the impact of those 13 drones that found their targets.
The reports from Ukraine's Ministry of Internal Affairs are just grim. 6 civilians lost their lives. 28 more were injured, some of them critically. These aren't just statistics, right? They are the direct, tragic consequence of this strategy. They are the price of that 11%.
And the goal is simple: misery. By targeting energy infrastructure, distribution nodes and substations in the dead of winter, the intent is crystal clear. It's to break civilian morale, to make life unlivable, to use the cold itself as a weapon of war.
But here's the thing. Russia's strategy of misery is hitting a wall. See, unlike in the first year of the war, Ukraine has adapted brilliantly. They've created what they call fortified teams. These are specialized mobile repair crews with pre-positioned modular transformers and equipment. The lights in most of Dnipro, they were back on within 4 hours. They have hardened their resilience, turning a tactic that once caused week-long blackouts into just a temporary disruption.
And that resilience, that brings us to the game changer I mentioned earlier. Because while Russia was launching its massive sledgehammer attack, Ukraine was quietly unsheathing a scalpel, a weapon that represents a fundamental shift in its long-range strike capability. It's time to talk about the Firepoint FP2.
For years, Ukrainian drones were mostly tactical, hitting a single tank a few kilometers away. Well, the FP2 changes everything. Just look at these specs: a 105-kilogram warhead. To put that in perspective, that's nearly double the payload of a standard HIMARS rocket, a range of 200 kilometers, which puts every major Russian supply depot and rail bridge in the occupied territories well within reach. And then there's the guidance system.
This is the secret sauce. The FP2 uses image nav. It doesn't rely on GPS, which Russian electronic warfare units are jamming constantly. Instead, it has an onboard camera that's constantly comparing the terrain it sees below with satellite maps that are preloaded. It navigates using its own eyes. You can't jam a drone that isn't even listening for an external signal. It is a simple, elegant, and devastatingly effective solution.
So why does all this matter? I can sum it up in 2 words: logistical decapitation. The ability to reach 200 kilometers behind enemy lines with a warhead this large means Ukraine can now systematically dismantle the Russian army's ability to fight from a distance. You hit a major railway hub, and an entire sector of the front line runs out of artillery shells within 72 hours. You don't just fight the army, you starve the beast.
This technological leap couldn't have come at a more critical time. This isn't just a new weapon on the battlefield, it's a whole new card on the geopolitical table. And it arrives at a moment of really intense global pressure.
Let's just look at the wider context for a moment, right? The Geneva format peace talks are, well, they're effectively stalled, with Russia making demands that are complete non-starters. In the United States, the next budget for Ukraine aid is facing unprecedented political hurdles. And with a major crisis in the Middle East diverting both attention and resources, there's a real fear that international support could start to waver. The FP2 gives Ukraine new leverage at a moment of extreme vulnerability.
And this weapon, it fundamentally changes the narrative. As one analyst for Defense News put it, Ukraine isn't just a beneficiary of tech anymore. They are the world's leading R&D lab for autonomous warfare. Think about that. They are no longer just receiving weapons, they are creating the very future of conflict.
So as we kind of reflect on these last 24 hours, the message is becoming crystal clear. What began as a war of attrition is rapidly evolving. It's becoming a war of innovation, a direct contest between Russia's brute force mass and Ukraine's high-tech precision.
It really is the sledgehammer versus the scalpel. You've got the sledgehammer, a strategy of pure attrition, using a massive drone swarm with the goal of inflicting misery. And then you have the scalpel, a strategy of precision, using the Firepoint FP2 with the goal of logistical decapitation. One is a weapon of terror, the other is a weapon of strategy. This is the new dynamic of the war, a high-stakes race between 2 fundamentally different philosophies of combat.
Which brings us to the final and I think the most crucial question. If you were in command with this new capability in your hands, what do you target first? Do you go for the logistics hubs to starve the front line of ammunition and fuel? Or do you target the command centers to blind the leadership and cripple their ability to coordinate? It's a huge strategic debate with enormous consequences.
What's your strategic choice? Let me know what you think in the comments. And be sure to subscribe for the latest updates on this evolving story, and check out the next explainer coming up on your screen. Stay informed, and I'll see you in the next one.